There are nights when everything around you is quiet, but inside your mind, something continues to stir. You lie down, close your eyes, and instead of rest, you find yourself drifting through a stream of thoughts that never seem to end. Questions, worries, memories, they come and go, weaving stories about who you are, what you've done, what you should have said, and what might happen tomorrow. And in the midst of all this mental noise, you begin to wonder, is this really me? Am I these thoughts, these restless feelings, this spinning world inside my head? Perhaps not. Because if you can see the thoughts, then maybe you are not the thoughts. If you can watch the emotions rise and fall, then maybe you are not the emotions either. Maybe, just maybe, you are something else entirely, the one who observes it all. This video is not a lesson, not a teaching, not even a meditation guide. It is an invitation to remember what has always been here, even when forgotten. The quiet witness, the still space behind the noise, a presence so gentle. It never demands attention, yet so vast. It holds all things. You don't need to believe anything. You don't need to understand everything. And you certainly don't need to change yourself to fit into some perfect mold of peace. All you need is to pause, to sit, to listen, not to find answers, but to rest in the place where questions fall silent, not to reach for something new, but to return to something timeless, the part of you that has never been disturbed by the turbulence of the mind, the part of you that simply watches, quietly, lovingly, without judgment. As you listen, you may begin to notice something subtle, a sense of openness, like the sky behind the clouds, a sense of clarity, like the lake beneath the ripples, a sense of yourself, not the self built by ideas or fears, but the self that simply is. Here, you are not required to be wise, calm, or enlightened. You are not required to be anything at all. You are already enough, simply by being here. So take a breath, a slow, full breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts come, and let them go. Let the words you hear be like wind moving through trees, not something to hold, just something to feel. You don't have to do anything. Just stay and allow yourself, perhaps for the first time in a long while, to simply be. It starts the way it often does, quietly. The room is still. The lights are off, and your body rests beneath a familiar blanket. But your mind is wide awake. Flickers of thought begin to stir like wind rustling dry leaves in the night. What if I didn't say the right thing today? Why did they look at me like that? What if tomorrow doesn't go well? And then a memory arises, sharp and clear, a moment from years ago. Something you said, something you regret. Your body hasn't moved, but you feel it, the weight in your chest, the quickening of your breath, the old ache knocking again at your ribs. The night becomes a canvas for your mind to paint on, not stars and quiet, but spirals of thought, loops of worry, echoes of yesterday. And you might lie there thinking, this is me. This is who I am. But then, something unexpected happens. There's a small pause, maybe a breath, maybe just a moment between two waves of thought, and within that pause, something ancient stirs. You notice the thoughts. You don't stop them. You don't fix them. You just see them, floating, flowing, coming and going like clouds across a vast, open sky. And in that moment, a question rises not from the mind, but from somewhere deeper. If I can see the thought, who is doing the seeing? If I am aware of the worry, the fear, the tension, then am I really the one worrying, fearing, tensing? The thought is there, but I am here. The image is on the screen, but I am the one watching. And just like that, something shifts, not loudly, not suddenly, but softly, like a whisper that had always been there, waiting for silence. Maybe I am not my thoughts. Maybe I've been watching a movie my whole life, thinking I was the character, feeling every blow, carrying every burden. But I've forgotten I was in the audience all along. The mind is loud. The mind is convincing. It tells stories with so much detail. It remembers. It anticipates. It argues. It rehearses. It tries to protect you by thinking everything through, but in doing so, it forgets to rest. And it forgets you are not it. The mind is like weather constantly changing, unpredictable, sometimes stormy, sometimes clear. But you are the sky. The sky doesn't argue with the clouds. It doesn't try to push away the rain. It simply allows. And perhaps you can too. Perhaps you don't need to stop the thoughts. Perhaps you don't need to judge them, or run from them, or fix them. Perhaps you only need to see them. There is a story quiet and ancient of a man who lived by the sea. Every night, he would sit by the shore, staring out into the waves, lost in thought. He believed the waves were trying to tell him something, so he listened and analyzed and tried to decode every crash, every ripple, until one night, he heard not the waves, but the silence between them. And in that silence, he realized, the waves are not speaking to me. They are simply being waves. And I am not the interpreter. I am the witness. From that day forward, he still went to the sea, but not to listen. He went to simply be, to sit, to breathe, to let the waves do what they do, without needing to make them mean anything. This is how we begin to come home. Not by eliminating thoughts, but by softening our grip on them. Not by achieving silence, but by noticing that silence was always underneath the noise. In the middle of your next restless night, try this. Don't fight the thoughts. Don't chase stillness. Just lie there and notice. Notice the thought arise like a ripple. Notice it pass like a breeze. And then notice the space that remains that quiet, open space. That space is you. You are not the ripple. You are not the breeze. You are the space in which all of it moves. You are the stillness behind every movement, the presence behind every story. You don't need to understand this. You don't need to explain it. Just feel it. Feel what it's like to notice without reacting, to watch without getting pulled in, to be without needing to become. So many of us spend our days identifying with the voice in the head. But let me ask you something. Have you ever heard your own thought and said, "Why did I think that?" Have you ever caught yourself lost in a loop and said, "That's not me"? Have you ever felt a surge of anxiety and known, deep down, that it's not all of who you are? These are moments when the observer wakes up, and each time, that awareness grows, gently, quietly, naturally. You don't force it. You don't practice it like a skill. You simply notice it, and in noticing, you return to it. The observer doesn't speak. It doesn't argue. It doesn't struggle to be heard. It's just here, like breath, like earth beneath your feet, like sky above your head. It doesn't come and go. Only your attention does. So, if you've forgotten, that's okay. If you've been caught in the storm, that's okay. If you're tangled in thoughts even now, listening to these words, that's okay. The stillness hasn't left you. It's just waiting. Waiting for you to pause long enough to feel it again. And perhaps that's why you're here now. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but because some part of you already remembers. Some part of you already knows. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees. You are the space in which everything appears and disappears. And that space, dear listener, is infinite. Close your eyes for a moment unless you're already resting. And imagine the sky, not just a piece of it, not just the patch you see from your window, but the entire sky, vast, endless, without edges, without beginning or end. Now imagine a single cloud drifting across it. A thought, a feeling, a memory. The cloud is soft, slow. It moves without asking for permission. It comes, it changes shape, and eventually, it goes. And still, the sky remains. No matter how many clouds appear, no matter how dark or heavy they may seem, the sky itself is untouched. It holds the clouds, but it is not them. It allows them to pass through, but it does not become them. And just like that, so are you. You are the sky, not the clouds. You are the awareness, not the thoughts. Thoughts are not the problem. They are not enemies to be silenced. They are not intruders. They are part of the weather of the mind. Some days bring storms. Some days bring sunshine. Some bring a restless wind. Others, a heavy stillness. But the sky, the true self, is always the same. Silent, open, unmoving. Have you ever watched a child lie in the grass, pointing up at the clouds, giving them names that one looks like a dragon? Over there, a ship. Oh, now it's a rabbit. And then, seconds later, the dragon becomes smoke. The ship becomes a smear of white. The rabbit vanishes into nothing. This is the mind. It names, it labels, it imagines, it attaches meaning to everything it sees. But awareness, what you truly are, does not need to name. It simply sees, without grasping, without rejecting, without turning the cloud into a story. This doesn't mean thoughts are bad. Quite the opposite. Thoughts can be beautiful, imaginative, necessary, even sacred. But they are not you. Just as the cloud is not the sky. The story is not the storyteller. Let's pause for a breath, a real breath, one that you can feel expanding your ribs, softening your belly, drawing your attention back to now. And now just notice, is there a thought? Maybe? Is there a feeling? Possibly. But even if there is, you are not lost in it. You are watching it. From where? From stillness, from presence, from the space that sees but does not speak. In this space, thoughts don't have to go away. They are free to be. You are simply no longer chasing them. This is not a technique. It is not a trick. It is the truth. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. There is a Zen story about a young monk who asked his master, "Master, how do I stop my thoughts?" The master looked at him, smiled, and said, "You don't. You let them pass, like birds through the sky." The monk frowned. "But they're so noisy." And the master replied, "Then let them be noisy. You are the sky. What can a bird do to the sky?" The monk paused. For the first time, he heard the chirping of birds not as distraction, but as part of life's music. And something in him loosened. This is the nature of awakening. Not to control the sky, but to stop identifying with the weather. You may still feel thoughts pulling at you. That's okay. They may try to convince you that you are them. They may wear masks. I am your to-do list. I am your shame. I am your memory. I am your opinion. And you may, out of habit, believe them. But each time you see one pass by, and each time you remember to look, not with judgment, but with presence, you reclaim the sky. You come home. So, let this be a practice, not an effort, but in gentle remembering. As thoughts arise, don't resist. Let them come. Let them go. Let them transform. Let them be clouds, because that's all they ever were. And in doing so, feel what remains behind them. The quiet, the space, the infinite presence. It doesn't move. It doesn't change. It watches. It holds. It remains. It is you. We spend so much of our lives staring at the clouds, forgetting to look beyond them. But even on the stormiest day, if you fly high enough, you'll find clear sky. That's the miracle. Peace is not something you create. It's something you uncover. It's what remains when the noise falls away. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to push the noise away. You only have to stop believing that it is you. You are not your anger. You are not your regret. You are not your worry. You are not your past. You are the one who sees. You are the one who allows. You are the sky, and the sky never breaks. Once, in a quiet mountain village far from the rush of the world, there lived a young man named Toma. Toma had always felt something was missing inside him, a kind of restless ache, like a melody he could almost hear, but never quite name. Everyone in the village called him smart, hardworking, kind. But Toma didn't feel that way. He carried a strange emptiness, a fear that maybe he wasn't really anyone at all. So one morning, just before dawn, he climbed the winding path into the high hills, seeking an answer. The elders had told him of a cave old as the land itself, said to echo back truths. If you entered the cave in silence and asked the right question, it would return your true voice. Toma didn't hesitate. He walked in barefoot. The light behind him faded. The stillness inside the cave was thick, like smoke. He sat on a stone and waited. At first, there was nothing, only the sound of his own breathing. Then he whispered, "Who am I?" The cave replied, "Who am I?" His voice, but not quite. There was a distance to it, like someone else repeating his words. He asked again, louder this time, "What is my purpose?" And the voice came back, "What is my purpose?" It was soft, slow, haunting, but undeniably his. Something inside him trembled. He kept going. Am I loved? Am I enough? Am I real? And again, the voice echoed back. Unchanged, Toma sat in the dark for hours, repeating questions, receiving them back, until finally, exhausted, he stood up and shouted, "Stop copying me. Give me something true." The silence after his cry was heavier than before. The cave said nothing. For the first time, it didn't echo. And in that silence, Toma heard something else. Not words, not sound, but awareness. And he understood. The voice he'd been hearing wasn't truth. It wasn't wisdom. It was just an echo. That's how most of us live. We hear thoughts echo through the cave of our mind, and we mistake them for answers, for identity, for reality, but they are only reflections. Thoughts repeat the past. They mimic voices we've absorbed from parents, teachers, screens, fears. They play like recordings, over and over again, with new disguises but the same rhythm. And we believe them. We follow them. We build our lives around them. But if we're quiet long enough, we begin to notice the space between the echoes, the awareness that doesn't echo back, that awareness still, wordless, untouched is who you are, not the thought, not the voice, not the echo, but the silent cave in which it all arises. And have you ever caught yourself reacting to something an insult, a fear, a doubt, and realized that voice isn't even mine? Maybe it sounded like a parent's disappointment. Maybe it carried the shape of an old teacher's criticism. Maybe it wore the costume of your own inner judge. And yet, deep down, you knew, this isn't me. This is an echo. And in that moment of recognition, even if only for a breath, you returned, not to a better version of yourself, but to a truer one, a quieter one, the one who watches without clinging, hears without believing, feels without becoming. Toma left the cave before sunset. He didn't speak to anyone about what happened. He didn't feel the need. He just walked slowly, softly back to the village. He still had questions. He still had thoughts, but he no longer tried to chase them down like wild animals. He let them wander. And in their wandering, he discovered a different kind of answer, the kind that doesn't come in words. It comes in stillness, in spaciousness, in not knowing. It comes when you stop echoing yourself and simply listen. So now, dear listener, try this. When a thought arises, I'm not good enough. They don't care. I need to be better. Don't fight it. Don't accept it either. Just notice. Is it a voice or an echo? Is it awareness or repetition? Is it a moment of clarity or a memory wearing a mask? And as you notice, let yourself soften. No need to resist. No need to analyze. Just rest in the cave. Let the words fade. Let the silence grow louder. The mind will still echo, that's okay. But you are not the echo. You are the space. Let this be a small shift, not an effort, not a struggle, just a breath in the right direction. You are not here to conquer your mind. You are here to recognize it, to bow to its echoes, and return to yourself, the one who listens, the one who knows, the one who has always been here, waiting quietly behind the noise. Thoughts are clever. They wear masks. They change voices. They appear helpful, insightful, even wise. They pretend to be you. And if you're not careful, or if you're simply tired, distracted, human, you start believing them. They say, I need to be more productive. I should have handled that better. I'm too much. I'm not enough. They probably don't like me. I'm finally figuring things out. I'll never figure anything out. Different messages. Same root. Identification. Each thought is like a thread, harmless, on its own. But tie enough of them together, and soon, you've built a mask, a self, a story, something that feels solid, real, undeniable. And yet, it's made entirely of passing clouds. Sometimes, the thoughts are loud, obvious, aggressive. They shout, they panic, they spin stories of worst-case scenarios. They pull you into loops of anxiety, regret, or imagined futures. But more often, they're soft, subtle, reasonable, like I'm just trying to do my best. If I don't think about this, who will I have to stay sharp, stay ahead, stay in control? And these thoughts feel like truth. But are they? Let's ask gently, not to fight, not to dismiss, only to see more clearly. Is it true that you must control everything to be safe? Is it true that you are only worthy when you succeed? Is it true that you must think your way out of every feeling when these thoughts are believed? They don't just pass through. They settle in. They root. They build a home in your nervous system. They become tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, a racing heart at midnight. And without realizing it, you're living not from presence, but from programming. So how do you return? Not by resisting the thoughts, not by silencing them, not by replacing negative ones with better ones. You return by recognizing this is a thought. That's simple. This is a thought, not a command, not a prophecy, not a reflection of who you truly are. Just a thought arising, like breath, like a ripple on water. There is a soft kind of freedom in this, one that doesn't shout or shine. It's quiet, patient, like light through leaves, and it begins like this. You notice the story starting. You hear the familiar voice. I can't do this. Or, this always happens to me. And instead of climbing inside it, you pause. You name it. Gently. Thinking. You breathe. You feel your body. You watch the thought float past like a leaf on a stream. And you don't follow it. You just watch. And like that, you return. You return not to something new, but to something original. The spaciousness that was there before the thought. The awareness that never left. Even when you were tangled in mind. It's like waking from a dream, not because the dream was wrong, but because you remember that it was a dream. There is a story of a woman named Leon who always walked the same path to work. Every day, as she neared the corner of Elm Street, her mind would tighten. She didn't notice it at first. It was just a feeling, a heaviness in her step, a quickening of her heart, until one day, She paused. She stood still. She looked around, and she remembered this corner, years ago, was where someone once shouted cruel words at her. It had stayed in her body, buried like a stone, every day since. Her thoughts had prepared for attack even when none came. She had believed the tension meant something dangerous. But in truth, it was memory, echo, conditioning, a quiet thread in the web of thought. So she did something radical. She let herself feel it, not explain it, not fix it. Just feel the tightness, the memory, the fear. And as she stood there, beneath a morning sky, she whispered to herself, "This is just a thought, just a memory." And then she breathed. She felt the ground beneath her feet. She saw the color of the trees. She heard birds she had never noticed before. And for the first time in years, she turned the corner freely. This is the power of presence, not to erase the past, but to see it clearly, to hold it with compassion, to release the identity built on its foundations. The thoughts will still come. That's their nature. But they don't need to define you. You are not the narrator. You are the awareness of narration. You are not the tension. You are the space that holds it. You are not the past. You are the presence in which memory rises and fades. So, let's come back again. Right now, feel the breath in your body, noticing, not controlling. Feel the weight of your body where you sit or lie. Let gravity be your anchor. Notice any thought that arises, and quietly, gently, name it. Thinking, remembering, planning, judging. No blame, no fixing, just noticing. And then come home to the silence underneath, to the space between, to the stillness that never asks for anything, but offers everything. The mind will try again. It will say, "But what if this doesn't work? What if I'm missing something? Shouldn't I be doing more?" And in those moments, smile. Smile like an old friend greeting a child who's worried for no reason. Say to the thought, "I see you," and let it pass. Don't argue. Don't solve. Don't run. Just return. Over and over again. Not perfectly, not forcefully, just gently, because returning is enough. You were never lost, only distracted, only caught in the clever disguises of thought. But now, you're home again, and home, dear listener, was never far. It was always here underneath the masks, beneath the stories, quiet, patient, loving, waiting for you to notice. Stillness. It's a word often misunderstood. We imagine it as silence so deep that nothing moves. A frozen moment, an absence of thinking, a perfect calm where not a single thought dares to arise. But real stillness is much softer than that. It's not the absence of thought, it's the space that allows thought to appear and disappear without grasping, without judgment, without becoming. Stillness is not what happens when the mind finally shuts up. Stillness is what's always here, even when the mind is speaking. It's the quiet floor beneath the noise, the gentle earth beneath rushing footsteps, the deep sea beneath a restless surface. Imagine a pond at dawn. The surface ripples as wind moves through trees, as birds land, as insects dance. But underneath a vast, unmoving body of water, the ripples are real. They're part of life, but they are not the whole pond. They come and go. Stillness is the depth, and thoughts are just the surface. Even now, as you listen, thoughts may be rising. What does this mean for me? Am I doing this right? Will I ever find peace? It's okay. They're just ripples. And you are the pond. Let's try something together. Bring your attention to your breath. No need to change it. Just notice. Inhale, exhale. Simple, natural. Now, as you breathe, begin to notice the space between thoughts. That little pause, not forced, not stretched, just there. A gap, a moment of quiet. Feel it. That space is not empty. It's full of presence, full of aliveness, full of awareness. That's stillness. It's not created. It's revealed. It doesn't need silence. It needs your noticing. You see, the mind is not a problem. It's a tool, a brilliant one. It helps us plan, create, remember, survive. But when we mistake the mind for the whole of ourselves, when we live entirely from thought, we begin to suffer. Not because thought is wrong, but because we've forgotten the stillness underneath. We begin to chase peace through answers, through ideas, through control. But peace doesn't live in answers. Peace lives in allowing. There is a story of a musician named Cale. He spent his youth chasing the perfect sound. He played for hours, studied theory, obsessed over every note. But no matter how skilled he became, he always felt something was missing. His songs were technically flawless, but empty. One day, frustrated and tired, he put down his instrument and sat in silence. Just sat. No intention, no performance, just breath, just presence. And slowly, something emerged. Not a melody, not a lyric, a pause. And in that pause was feeling. That feeling became a song, not one he wrote, but one that flowed through him. For the first time, he wasn't creating from effort. He was creating from stillness, from listening, from space. Stillness is not the end of thought. It's the beginning of clarity. Stillness is not where thinking stops. It's where awareness becomes free. When you rest in stillness, thoughts don't stop, but they lose their grip. They float in and float out. They visit, but they don't take over. You see them and smile, like clouds drifting across your sky, like birds gliding across your view, like echoes returning through a canyon. You hear them, but you don't follow them. You are not drawn into their drama, because now you remember the stillness, and stillness changes everything. It changes how you speak. Your words come from depth, not from defense. It changes how you listen. You hear not only what's being said, but also what's being felt. It changes how you love. You hold others without needing to fix them. It changes how you live, because you are no longer rushing toward a future. You are resting in the present. Stillness is not passive. It's not lazy. It's not doing nothing. Stillness is the most powerful form of presence. It is where true action begins, not from fear, not from habit, not from reactivity, but from wisdom. It's the space where love can bloom, where insight can arise, where healing can unfold, because only in stillness can you hear what's real, not the conditioned voice, not the rehearsed answers, but the quiet truth beneath it all. So right now, wherever you are listening in bed, walking slowly, sitting in a quiet room, take one breath and give yourself to stillness. Don't search for it. Don't reach. Just allow. Allow the breath. Allow the moment. Allow the silence underneath everything. Let the thoughts come. Let them go. Let them swirl. Speak. Disappear. Let them be. You don't have to control the weather. You only have to remember the sky. Stillness has always been with you. It's not far. It's not complicated. It's as close as your next breath, as near as your own heartbeat, as real as the awareness. Hearing these words right now, you don't need to find stillness. You only need to stop moving away from it. And perhaps now you see stillness is not the enemy of thought. Stillness is its home. And you have always belonged here. There was once a father who loved his daughter deeply. She was 7, full of questions, full of light, and sometimes full of rage. One afternoon, she came home from school upset. Someone had laughed at her. A teacher had been harsh. Something small, but to her, it was everything. She stormed into the house, slammed her backpack onto the floor, and screamed, threw her shoes, hit the wall with a tiny fist, then collapsed into tears on the living room carpet. Her father, hearing the noise, stepped out of the kitchen. He saw her there, a trembling storm of emotion, and for a moment, the usual reflex rose in him. Say something. Fix it. Calm her down. But something softer spoke within him. Wait. So he did. He knelt beside her. Not too close. Not touching. Just there. He said nothing. He offered no advice. He asked no questions. He simply breathed. And for a long time, in the life of a child, he remained still. Not passive, not distant, present. The daughter, at first still sobbing, began to soften. The tears slowed. The tension in her body began to ease. She looked up at him, searching his face for judgment. She found none, only stillness, only love. And in that quiet presence, without a single word exchanged, something shifted inside her. Something healed. This is the power of the observer, not the one who analyzes, not the one who critiques or controls, but the one who simply is, who sees without interfering, who listens without interrupting, who allows everything to be exactly as it is, not because they agree, but because they trust that what arises will also pass. You've likely heard the phrase, "be here now." It sounds simple, but what does it mean to truly be here without changing, fixing, judging? It means allowing life to move without needing to move with it. It means resting in the center of the storm, not as the wind, but as the still air in the eye. It means being like that father, kneeling not to intervene, But to witness, this is not inaction. This is sacred attention. It is the attention that heals, that softens, that invites all things to unfold naturally. Try it now. Notice your breath. Not to change it, just to see it. Notice your thoughts. Not to stop them, just to witness them. Notice your feelings, whatever they may be. Can you let them be? Can you allow the sadness, the tightness, the joy, the numbness, without rushing to name them or solve them? This is what it means to observe, to let go of the role of doer and return to the role of being. The observer doesn't resist life, it receives it. And in that receiving, life changes on its own. Like the child softening in her father's presence, your inner world softens in the light of attention. You don't have to force transformation. You simply have to witness truthfully. And the truth is, nothing stays. Everything arises, lives, and fades, like a wave cresting on the sea. There is a teaching in Buddhism. Mindfulness is the mirror, not the judge, not the sculptor, not the editor. The mirror simply reflects. It doesn't argue. It doesn't exaggerate. It doesn't erase. And yet, in its presence, distortion falls away. When you observe your mind as a mirror does gently, consistently, without adding or subtracting, you begin to see things clearly, not because you figured them out, but because you finally stopped trying. A woman once came to a Zen master, frantic with worry. "My mind won't stop," she said. "It's always spinning. I try to meditate, but it just gets worse." The master looked at her kindly and said, "Don't stop it. Just bow to it." She blinked. "Bow, yes," he said. "Not in surrender, but in respect. It is showing you what's there." She tried. She sat in silence each day, not to quiet her mind, but to bow to it, to notice its habits, to see its loops, to watch its fears. And slowly, something softened, not the mind, but her relationship to it. She no longer feared it. She no longer clung to it. She simply watched. And in that watching, space returned. You can try this now. Close your eyes or let your gaze rest softly. Breathe and become the mirror. See your thoughts as they are, not as enemies, not as guides, just as visitors. See your feelings not as problems, not as definitions of who you are, but as clouds drifting through a clear blue sky. And see yourself not the role, not the story, not the name, but the space in which all of this appears. You don't have to understand this. You don't have to explain it. Just allow it. Just observe. You are not the thought. You are the one who sees the thought. You are not the fear. You are the one who notices the trembling. You are not the failure. You are the one who holds the feeling of falling without collapsing into it. This is the strength of presence, not the ability to control everything, but the willingness to allow everything. Not because you're indifferent, but because you trust. Because deep down, you know you don't have to fix the storm. You only have to stop becoming the storm. So the next time a wave of emotion rises, pause. Before you act, before you explain, before you label, just pause and let presence breathe. Let the observer return, like the father beside his daughter. Offer nothing but your gentle being. And in that offering, life begins to unfold differently, not because you made it change, but because you finally stepped aside and let it move freely. This is not detachment. This is intimacy. This is how the truest love shows up, not with answers, not with force, but with space, with stillness, with attention so complete that everything in its presence begins to remember what it truly is, and what you truly are is that presence, always here, always enough, always ready to see. Imagine this. There's a knock at the door. You weren't expecting anyone. You pause, you hesitate, and then you open it. Standing there is something unexpected, not a friend, not a loved one, but an old emotion, one you thought had left years ago. Sadness, grief, loneliness, shame. It says nothing. It doesn't smile. It doesn't force its way in. It simply waits. And the question is, will you let it stay? Not forever. Not to move in. Just for a while. Will you let it sit beside you? Will you pour it tea, even if your hands are trembling? Emotions, like thoughts, are not problems. They're visitors. They come not to harm you, but to be seen. They don't want to take over. They want to be welcomed. And when you meet them with presence, not resistance, something sacred happens. They soften, they speak, and eventually, they leave. Not because you pushed them out, but because they finally felt heard. There's a teaching from Rumi that says, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Welcome and entertain them all. It's simple, and yet, for many of us, so difficult. Because some guests feel too heavy, some feel dangerous, some have been ignored for so long. They arrive screaming just to be noticed. But the miracle is this: even the loudest emotion, when met with love, begins to whisper. Let's bring this to life. Close your eyes, or let your gaze fall gently, and ask, what am I feeling? Right now. No judgment, no story. Just notice. Maybe it's tension. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's nothing at all. Whatever is here, can it stay? Can it sit across from you without being fixed? Can it rest in the warmth of your attention? Just for now. Most of us grew up learning to manage emotions to get over it. Stay strong, think positive. But presence isn't management, it's relationship. To feel is not to be weak. To observe is not to suppress. It's to say to the emotion, I see you. I'm here. You don't have to shout. And slowly, gently, the emotion begins to shift, not disappear, but transform. Not because you made it go, but because you stopped holding the door closed. There's a story of a man named Eli who had a fear of being alone. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It showed up in small ways, checking his phone constantly, overcommitting to plans, keeping music playing in every room. He called it boredom. But beneath the boredom was something deeper. One night, his phone died. The power went out. The house was quiet, and something inside him panicked. He felt it rise, that tightness in the chest, that fear behind the eyes. But instead of moving, instead of reaching, he sat. He whispered to the feeling, "I know you're here." And he breathed. The fear didn't vanish, but it loosened. It sighed. It curled up next to him like a restless child who had been crying too long. And for the first time, Eli didn't run. He stayed. He let the feeling stay, too. And in that shared silence, something healed. You don't have to fear your feelings. They are not proof of failure. They are not signs that something is wrong. They are proof that you're alive. They are waves in the ocean, sometimes strong, sometimes still, but always moving. And you are the ocean. You can hold it all. And the next time sadness comes, try this instead of saying, "Why am I sad?" Try asking, "What does this sadness want me to feel?" instead of pushing it away. Sit with it. Breathe with it. You might be surprised it may not want to drown you. It may simply want to be acknowledged. It may just want to be felt. Fully. Without commentary. And then, like every wave, it will pass. To observe emotion is not to step back. It is to step in. To step into the heart of experience. Not as a victim, not as a fighter, but as a listener. And when you listen deeply, lovingly, without agenda, the world inside you softens. You realize you don't need to be fearless. You only need to be present. So whatever you're feeling now, whatever emotion has knocked on your door, try this. Breathe. Place a gentle hand on your chest and say inwardly, "You're allowed to be here." You don't have to like it. You don't have to understand it. Just allow it. Like weather passing through your sky. Like a traveler resting before the journey continues. Just be the host. The open door, the quiet room, the calm in the center of all things. You don't have to do anything. You only have to feel and let feeling be. That's presence. That's love. That's healing. Imagine sitting in a dark theater. The room is still. The lights have dimmed. The screen glows with a soft hum. You sink into the seat. The film begins, and almost instantly, you're pulled in. A story unfolds, dramatic, beautiful, painful. A hero rises. A villain schemes. Love is found. Loss is felt. The music swells. The stakes rise. You laugh. You hold your breath. You cry. You forget where you are. You forget that you're watching. For a while, you become the film. This is how most of us live. We step into the story, our story, and get swept away. We become the role, the daughter, the partner, the professional, the seeker. We become the emotion, the anxiety, the joy, the anger, the hope. We become the experience, the failure, the success, the heartbreak, the dream, and we forget. We are not the screen. We are not the actor. We are the one sitting in the seat watching, quiet, aware, still, the one who never leaves, even as every scene changes. There's nothing wrong with playing a role, just like an actor takes on a character with full intensity, full immersion. We, too, take on identities. But something changes when we forget it's a role. When we believe the costume is our skin. When we believe the drama is who we are. That's when suffering begins. Because now, every mistake on the screen feels like your fault. Every word of rejection feels personal. Every plot twist feels like a threat. But what happens when you remember, just for a moment, that you're the one watching? The whole story changes. Not because the scenes are different, but because your seat has shifted from being in the story to being with the story, from becoming the experience to witnessing it. Let's take this further. Imagine watching a movie where the main character stumbles, gets rejected, lashes out, cries. Do you scream at the screen? Do you hate them? No. You understand. You feel for them. You know they're doing the best they can with what they know. You may wish they'd choose differently, but your heart stays open. Can you offer yourself the same? Can you sit in the audience of your life and watch with kindness? Can you feel the sadness, the confusion, the fear, and still keep watching without turning away? This is awareness. This is presence. Not judging, not fixing, just watching with love. Now, close your eyes if you feel safe to do so. Take a breath and imagine your life playing on the screen. Not just the big moments, but the quiet ones, the lonely ones, the ones you try to forget. Watch yourself as if in a film. Can you see the innocence behind every mistake? Can you feel the longing behind every decision? Can you offer that character, that version of you, a silent bow? Not because they were perfect, but because they were real. Because they were human. Because they tried. And now, gently shift your focus, not to the screen, but to the one in the seat. You. The watcher. The presence. Notice that this watcher has no age, no opinion, no identity. It simply sees. It does not speak, but it knows. It does not move, but it holds everything. Even when the film gets dark, it remains untouched. Even when the story is chaotic, it stays still. This is who you truly are. Not the character, not the scene, but the silent space in which it all appears. When you live as the actor, every scene is urgent. You must succeed. You must be loved. You must get it right. When you live as the watcher, everything softens. You don't need to control the plot. You don't need to rewrite the script. You simply stay present and let the story unfold. You trust that no matter what happens on the screen, you remain whole, complete, unchanging. And there's a teaching in meditation that says, be the awareness behind the experience, not the experience itself. You can feel sadness without becoming a sad person. You can feel anger without being an angry soul. You can feel confusion without identifying as broken. Because all of these emotions are roles, temporary, shifting, performing their part, and then exiting the stage. But you are the empty stage. You are the silent seat. You are the one who never leaves. A monk once asked his teacher, "Who am I, truly?" Teacher smiled and replied, "You are the one who hears the question." The monk nodded. But how do I stay there? And the teacher answered, watch your life like a play. Enjoy it. Cry if you must. Laugh deeply. But remember, you are sitting in the audience. The beauty of this practice is, it doesn't require silence. It doesn't require hours of meditation. It only asks for remembrance in the middle of chaos, in the middle of joy, in the middle of ordinary life. Can you pause and remember the seat you're sitting in? Not the one at your desk, not the role you've been handed, but the awareness that has always been here, watching, loving, waiting. So now, as you go about your day, when emotion rises, pause. Ask gently, am I in the movie again? And if the answer is yes, smile. You've remembered, and that remembering is awakening. You don't have to leave the movie. You don't have to stop feeling. Just don't forget where you're sitting. Don't forget who you are. Not the actor, not the story, but the quiet witness, watching it all unfold. Have you ever stood outside in the rain without rushing to cover yourself? Not running for shelter? Not resisting? Just standing there feeling it. Each drop cold, clear, alive, touching your skin, then sliding away. You didn't chase the rain. You didn't hold on to it. And yet, you felt it completely. This is what life asks of us: to feel without possession, to experience without identity, to let each moment pass through without needing it to stay. It's so often, we think peace means not feeling, but peace doesn't come from avoiding. It comes from allowing, like wind moving through a forest, rustling every branch, then fading into silence. Peace is not still because nothing moves. Peace is still because it doesn't resist the movement. Life will touch you. It's meant to. You will love. You will lose. You will rise. You will fall. You will hope. You will ache. You will glow. And if you're present, you will feel every part. But you don't have to become every part. You don't have to clutch each joy as if it's your last chance at happiness. You don't have to hold each sorrow like a name carved into stone. You can let it pass through, like rain, like breath, like music at the end of a song. There's an old saying, don't let life stick to you. It sounds simple, but it takes gentleness. It takes courage, because we want to hold on to moments that felt warm, to people who made us feel seen, to identities that helped us survive. And we want to push away the rest, the failures, the grief, the shadow parts of our own reflection. But clinging and rejecting are two sides of the same coin. Both are resistance, and resistance creates suffering. Awareness doesn't resist. Awareness receives. It receives pleasure. It receives pain. It receives confusion, clarity, chaos, calm. It opens to everything, not because everything is welcome, but because everything is already here. And in that opening, freedom is born. Not the freedom to escape life, but the freedom to be with life, just as it is. Think of a river. It flows not because it controls its path, but because it yields to it. It doesn't argue with the stone. It doesn't refuse the curve. It doesn't hold on to the water that just passed. And yet, it continues, effortlessly, clearly, fully alive. You, too, can live this way. Not pushing, not pulling, just flowing, letting life pass through your awareness. Like water, through open hands. When joy comes, feel it. Let it warm you. Let it dance in your chest. Let it lift your face to the light. But don't try to trap it. Don't try to photograph it into permanence. Joy, like everything, has a shape made of time. It will visit. It will fade. It will return in another form. Let it move. Let it pass. Let it be joy, not a possession, but a presence. When sorrow comes, feel that too. Let it echo through your ribcage. Let it hollow out space in you, not to destroy, but to deepen. Don't numb it. Don't name it a mistake. Sorrow, too, has wisdom. It softens the ego. It breaks the illusion of control. It reminds you of your capacity to feel, to care, to love, without guarantees. And when it's ready, it will go. Not because you forced it out, but because you allowed it in. And in its leaving, it will leave you clearer, quieter, more real. Let life move through you. Let the seasons come and go. Let relationships bloom and fade. Let emotions rise and fall. Let thoughts appear and dissolve. And through it all, remain aware, not distant, not detached, present, here, soft and strong, like the earth beneath your feet. You are not the rain. You are the sky it falls through. You are not the storm. You are the space in which it rumbles. You are not the emotion. You are the one who feels then lets go. This letting go is not rejection. It's trust. It's trust that what is true will remain, and what is not will pass, like the tide, like a sigh, like a memory that taught you something, then disappeared. There's a story of a woman named Mira who carried a heavy box everywhere she went. Inside were her achievements, her regrets, her titles, her heartbreaks. She never opened it, but she never put it down. She said it was who she was, until one day, she sat beside a river. She watched the water glide over rocks, carrying leaves and sun and silence. She asked the river, "How do you move without holding?" And the river whispered, "I don't forget. I just don't cling." Mira wept. She opened the box. She emptied it into the current. She watched everything she thought defined her float away. And for the first time, she felt light, not lost, free. Arkunar. Let this be your reminder. You don't need to carry every moment. You don't need to fix or freeze or define anything that passes. Let it move through you. Feel it. Learn from it. Then return to presence. Not because you are above it, but because you are beyond it. You are deeper than the story. You are wider than the wave. You are the one who lets go without losing anything true. So now, as this moment comes to a close, breathe in, breathe out. Feel what's here, whatever it is. Welcome it. Let it sit with you. And when it's ready, let it go. Like all things, like everything beautiful. Like you? Have you ever watched the last light of day fall across a room? It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply arrives golden, soft, fleeting, and then it's gone. That's impermanence. Not just an idea, but a rhythm, a truth that hums quietly beneath everything. All things change, all things pass, all things end, and it's not sad, it's beautiful, because what ends teaches us how to see. We live much of our lives trying to make things last. We save photos, hold on to keepsakes, replay memories like songs on repeat. We chase youth, permanence, guarantees. But the more we chase, the more we suffer, because deep down, we know nothing holds forever. That relationship, that season, that version of you, why, all of it already changing, even as you cling. And so the invitation becomes not to hold tighter, but to hold softer, to live knowing that everything you touch is borrowed. And that's what makes it sacred. When you kiss someone goodbye, and you know it might be the last time you kiss them differently, when you stand beneath a cherry blossom tree in spring, and remember its bloom will last only days. You look longer. You breathe deeper. When a loved one smiles, and you realize their face will one day be memory, you soften. This is not grief. This is reverence. This is presence sharpened by impermanence. A seeing that arises not from fear, but from truth. A Zen master was once asked, "What is the most important teaching of all?" He lifted his teacup and said, "This too will pass." And then he drank. Try this. Think of something in your life that has changed. A home you once lived in, a friend you've drifted from, a version of yourself that feels like another lifetime. Notice how real it felt back then, how full, how complete. And now it's gone, not erased, just past. What remains? Not the thing itself, but the impression, the lesson, the quiet beauty of having been. This is the soft power of impermanence. It doesn't take meaning away. It gives it identity. You don't have to fear change. Change is the nature of all things. Clouds shift, tides rise and fall, mountains erode, stars burn and vanish. Everything dances to the same song, coming and going. Even pain changes, even loss, even sorrow. They evolve, they move, they fade, and in their place, space opens for new breath, for new seeing, for new life. You are not outside this rhythm. You, too, are changing every day. Your cells renew, your thoughts shift, your dreams evolve. The self you clung to 10 years ago is gone. The self you fear becoming in the future is not yet here. What remains is this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this awareness, noticing it all. And that is enough. There's a story told in Buddhist tradition. A monk once carved a wooden cup for himself. Simple, unadorned. He used it every day with care. And every morning, he would say, This cup is already broken, not with sadness, not with dread, but with gratitude, because in knowing it was temporary, he treated it with reverence. He drank from it slowly. He never took it for granted. And when the cup finally cracked, years later, he smiled. It had served its life, and he had truly lived with it. This is the gift of seeing clearly. When you know everything changes, you stop rushing. You begin to savor the sound of rain on the roof, the way someone says your name, the warmth of sunlight through a window. You start to say, "I love you" without hesitation. You begin to listen with your whole presence, not because there will be another chance, but because maybe there won't. This isn't heavy. It's light. It's free. It's awake. So now, let this be a soft turning point. Instead of fearing endings, honor them. Instead of clinging to what's fading, thank it. Instead of rushing toward forever, return to now. This breath, this heartbeat, this miracle of aliveness, however imperfect, however brief. Let life pass through you, and say quietly to each moment, "I see you. I feel you. Thank you." And let it go. And because that is love, not possession, not permanence, but presence. And when everything changes, as it always will, you'll know. You didn't miss it. You didn't look away. You lived it, fully. And that is enough. There's a moment, maybe once in your life, or maybe often, when everything becomes quiet. Not because the world has stopped, not because the mind is empty, but because you're no longer chasing. You're no longer grasping at identity, no longer running from emotion, no longer trying to become something more. You're just here, breathing, present, enough. And in that moment, so still, so soft, something ancient opens, a space you've always been, but never quite noticed. Not a void, not a blankness, but an alive stillness, a quiet clarity, a sense of I am without anything added. This is home. We spend so much of life trying to improve ourselves, trying to be kinder, smarter, more spiritual, more healed, more enlightened. And it's not wrong. The longing to grow is human, but sometimes growth becomes another mask, another project, another performance, another way of saying, I'm not there yet. But what if you are not perfect, not finished, but already whole, already awareness, already the one who sees even when things feel broken? There's a metaphor in Eastern philosophy. The sky is never broken by the clouds. Storms may rage, thunder may roll, but the sky remains untouched, clear, open, infinite. You are that sky. Thoughts may come. Emotions may swirl. Stories may rise and fall. But none of it changes what you are. What you are is not the content. It's the context. Not the cloud, but the space it floats in. Close your eyes, if you'd like. Let your breath slow and feel what's underneath everything you usually think of as you. Beneath the name, beneath the body, beneath the mind, beneath even the roles of seeker, meditator, listener. What's left? Stillness, awareness, presence, It doesn't speak, but it hears. It doesn't strive, but it knows. It doesn't change, but it holds all change. This is not something you become. It's something you remember. Sometimes, the remembering is sudden, like a flash of sunlight through heavy clouds, a moment of clarity, in nature, in music, in silence when for a breath. Everything makes sense. And sometimes, it's slow. A gentle peeling away of everything that's not truly you. Not through effort, through softening, not through doing, through allowing. And in that allowing, your true self is revealed. Not built, not earned, revealed. There's a story of a sculptor named Ravi. He was obsessed with perfection. Every sculpture had to be flawless. He worked day and night, chipping, sanding, refining. One day, a teacher visited his studio and asked, "What are you carving?" Ravi replied, "The image of the divine." The teacher said nothing. He pointed to a large block of marble in the corner. Ravi nodded. "That's the next one." The teacher smiled. "Then your job," he said, "is not to carve the divine. Your job is to remove everything that's not." And he left. Ravi never forgot those words. He didn't need to build beauty. He needed to uncover it. The same is true for you. Yourself, your true self, doesn't need to be created. It's already here, beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the effort, waiting. So now, stop, not forever, just for this breath. Stop trying to be someone. Stop trying to fix anything. Stop reaching and rest in yourself, as yourself, with yourself. You don't have to earn this. You are this. There's no name for what you are, but it has a flavor. Still, loving, spacious, awake. It holds everything without resistance. It sees everything without judgment. It changes nothing and transforms everything. It is what listens as you hear these words. It is what has never left, even when you thought you were lost. So, let the world move around you. Let thoughts speak. Let emotions rise. Let life unfold. But don't forget the space that is always here. Always quiet, always free, not behind you, not above you, but as you. Let this be the beginning of a new kind of seeing, not through effort, through intimacy, through silence, through remembering. You are not a role, not a thought, not even a feeling. You are the one who sees, and you've always been here, waiting for you to return. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this: a vast, open sky, no edges, no ceiling, no floor, just space, endless, quiet, waiting. Now imagine clouds begin to form, soft at first, then thicker, then stormy, maybe lightning flashes, maybe thunder rolls. But even as the storm swirls, the sky remains open, unshaken, unchanged. This is you. You are not the weather. You are the space it happens in. Every thought, every feeling, every memory, they are like clouds. They come, they color the sky, they move. Some are heavy, some pass quickly. Some swirl for days before dissolving, but none of them define the sky, and none of them define you. You are the space in which joy rises and eventually fades. You are the space in which grief burns and softens over time. You are the space in which confusion, insight, boredom, wonder all unfold like seasons, like waves, like sound. But you are not those things. You are the one who knows they are happening, the witness, the open space of awareness in which all life unfolds. You don't have to stop the storm. You don't have to hold on to the sunlight. Just remember the space. Let it all arise. Let it all pass. And return again and again to the vast, silent openness that never moves. Try this. Gently notice the sounds around you right now, the hum of a fan, the distant traffic, the wind, my voice. Let them come and go. Don't cling. Then, notice any thoughts in your mind. Just see them not as truth, not as commands, but as movements in the sky. Now, notice emotions, subtle or strong, welcome or not. Just feel them, without naming them, without fixing. And now, ask softly, what is aware of all this? Not the thought, not the feeling, not the sound, but the space it's all happening in. Can you sense that space? Can you rest there? This is not something you need to achieve. It's something you relax into, because you already are it. The space doesn't need to be created. It's not somewhere else. It's right here, underneath the noise, between the thoughts, within the breath. It is who you are before identity, before memory, before becoming. And it's always, always available. There is a story of a young man named Arjun who struggled with anger. He would try to meditate, but each time his thoughts grew hot, his emotions flared. He felt like a failure. One day, a teacher asked him, "When the fire rises, where is it burning?" Arjun answered, "In me. I feel it in my chest, my face, my fists." The teacher nodded. "And what sees that fire?" Arjun paused. "My awareness," he said slowly. The teacher smiled. "Then you are not the fire. You are the hearth. You are not your reactions. You are the field in which reactions appear and fade. You are not the sadness. You are the space that holds it. Gently, like a parent holding a child. You are not the fear. You are the presence that stays, even when fear tries to close the door. And you are not the joy, either, because even joy is just a guest. But you are the house, the space that never leaves. This realization is not an escape. It's not detachment. It's not spiritual bypassing. It is the most honest, most compassionate shift possible. Because when you know you are the space, not the storm, you stop trying to control everything. You allow life to be what it is: messy, moving, mysterious. And from that allowing, clarity rises. From that openness, love flows, not as effort, but as essence. Let's come back once more to this moment. Right now, feel your breath in, out. Feel your body, not as an object, but as part of the space. Now, gently become aware of everything passing through sensations, thoughts, sounds, emotions. Let it all move like birds flying across a quiet sky. And stay with the sky, Stay with the stillness. Not because the world is still, but because you are. Because the deeper you go, the more you realize you are not inside this experience. This experience is inside you. And you are the canvas, not the paint. You are the silence, not the song. You are the space, not the scene. And this knowing is liberation. So, when life feels overwhelming, pause and whisper to yourself, I am not what's happening. I am the one it's happening in. Let the noise rise. Let the feelings speak. Let the mind whirl. And gently come back to space. Back to what you've always been. Back to home. From the time we are young, we are taught to strive, to improve, to achieve, to become. We carry to-do lists in our minds, not only for the world, but for ourselves. Be more confident, be less sensitive, fix the past, figure out the future, heal, grow, awaken. And somewhere along the way, we begin to believe a quiet lie that we are a problem, a project, a task, a puzzle that must be solved before we can rest. But the truth is softer and simpler. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a presence to be met. There is nothing wrong with growth. Healing is beautiful. Effort can be noble, but not when it's rooted in self-rejection. Not when it says, I'll be worthy once I change. Because when we live from that place always becoming, never arriving, we never feel safe to just be. We're always editing ourselves, always adjusting, always preparing for a version of life we've never met. And in doing so, we miss the one unfolding right now. Pause for a moment. Notice your breath just as it is. Notice your body not as an object to judge, but as a living presence. Notice your heart with all its contradictions, all its layers, and ask, what if nothing needs to be fixed? Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is allowed. Right here, right now. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to deserve peace. You don't have to prove your value through productivity, or clarity, or control. You are not a self-improvement project. You are a mystery unfolding. You are a song already being sung. You are a flame already burning. There's a story of a traveler who wandered the earth looking for a temple that would bring him peace. He visited teachers, read books, meditated in caves, but still, something felt missing. Finally, exhausted, he sat down beneath a tree and wept. I've tried everything, he said, and I still feel incomplete. A child, walking by, heard him and asked gently, what are you trying to become? The traveler paused, and for the first time, he had no answer. He looked up. The wind moved through the branches. The sky held everything, and he saw. It was never about becoming. It was always about being. You are not broken. You may feel pain, but you are not pain. You may carry wounds, but you are not the wound. You may forget yourself, but you are never truly lost. Because awareness never leaves. Because what you are is whole, even in the middle of healing. Complete, even as you grow. Enough, even as you evolve. Imagine sitting by a river. You watch leaves float past, some fast, some slow, some caught in the current. Thoughts, emotions, memories, they drift, they swirl, they fade. But you, the watcher, you remain. You don't need to clean the river. You don't need to catch every leaf. You only need to sit, to see, to stay. This is presence, not passive, not indifferent, but loving and free. So now, I invite you, let go of fixing, just for this breath, just for this moment. Let go of the story that says you should be somewhere else by now. Let go of the tension in your shoulders that says, hurry. Let go of the internal checklist and return not to a better version of yourself, but to yourself as you are, breathing, aware, alive. There's a different kind of healing that happens here, not through analysis, through acceptance, not by doing more, but by being fully with what is. It doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It holds your hand like a trusted friend and says, you don't have to change. You only have to come home. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to get it right. You don't need to make sense of the past or predict the future. All of that will come, in time or not. What matters now is this. Can you sit with yourself without trying to escape? Can you feel your own breath and call it sacred? Can you meet your experience and say, you are welcome here? That's all that's ever been asked. Not perfection, just presence. So, next time the voice in your head says, you need to be better, pause and ask according to whom and why, who told you that you weren't already enough, who taught you to abandon your own being in search of an imaginary finish line. Let that voice dissolve. Let that pressure fall away and whisper. Even if your voice shakes, I am not a problem. I am a presence. I am here. And that is enough. Picture a mountain. It does not try to grow taller. It does not compare its shape to the one beside it. It simply stands rooted, quiet, complete. When clouds surround it, it does not resist. When sunlight touches its face, it does not celebrate. It does not ask for more. It does not seek approval. It simply is. And in that being, it is majestic. You are no different. There's a voice in many of us that says, I need to be more calm, more confident, more spiritual, more loving, more healed. But what if you didn't? Not because you're flawless, but because nothing real can be added to wholeness, and you are already whole. Imagine you were never told who to be, never measured by grades, by titles, by appearance, never praised for performance, never shamed for mistakes. What would remain? Stillness, presence, a quiet joy, not based on what you've done, but on what you are. Not because you've earned it, but because you've always been it. That's the wholeness we speak of. Not perfection, but undisturbed being. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything outside itself. Now try this. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow, full breath and feel not your story, not your ideas, but your presence. Notice that you are here, not your achievements, not your past. You, alive, aware, breathing, and ask gently, is anything missing? Right now. Not in the world, not in your plans, but in your being. Does your awareness need to be improved? Does your aliveness need to be rearranged? Or is it already complete? When a tree doesn't add branches to prove its worth, a flower doesn't grow faster to please the wind. They live, they bloom, they fade, and in every phase, they are whole. You, too, are whole. Even in transition, even in loss, even in uncertainty. Because wholeness isn't about having everything. It's about being present with everything. It's about knowing that you are not a piece of the universe. You are made of the same mystery as stars, oceans, wind. You are life, knowing itself. There's a story from the desert. A woman named Layla wandered in search of herself. She visited holy mountains, quiet temples, vast skies. One day, she reached a mirror, placed in the sand by a mystic. As she looked in, she saw herself tired, aged, unsure. She wept. This is not what I was seeking. And yet, she could not look away. Then, something subtle shifted. She stopped seeing her reflection and started seeing her presence. Not the surface, the source. Not the shape, the stillness. And in that moment, nothing changed. But everything changed. She saw there was nothing to add, only something to recognize. This is the invitation of presence to stop adding, to stop polishing the surface in hopes of becoming shiny enough to be loved. You already are love. You already are. Feel that now. Feel your breath. It asks for nothing. It proves nothing. It simply moves in, out, like the tide. It doesn't try to be beautiful, but it is, because it's alive, because it's real, because it is enough, just like you. You may still want to grow, and you can, but not from lack, from fullness, from the quiet knowing I am already whole, and I still choose to evolve. That's not pressure. That's freedom. That's creating from love, not fear. That's moving not to fix yourself, but to express what's already complete. When you drop the search for more, you find what's always been here. Peace, spaciousness, a sense of home not out there, but in your very being. You don't have to add anything to arrive. You only have to stop looking away. There's an ancient image, the moon reflected in a still pond. The moon doesn't touch the water, but its light fills it. So too, your awareness, it touches every experience without becoming it. It holds every thought without clinging. It shines without effort. You don't have to fix the water. You don't have to reach the moon. You only have to be still enough to notice the light that's already shining. And that light is you. Let this truth settle in. You are not a gap to be filled. You are not a project to complete. You are not lacking. You are the field in which life grows, the stillness in which the noise dances, the wholeness that never left. There's a common misunderstanding that stillness means withdrawal, that presence means passivity, that inner peace means you've turned your back on the world. But nothing could be further from the truth. Because the more deeply you rest in awareness, the more clearly you meet life, not in pieces, but whole, not as an idea, but as it is. Awareness doesn't make you less human. It makes you more present within your humanity. It lets you feel joy not as a flash of pleasure, but as an echo of something timeless. It lets you feel grief not as punishment, but as a doorway into love. It lets you listen not to words alone, but to silence between them. This is not escape. This is intimacy. This is a kind of participation that doesn't depend on control, but on presence. And to rest in awareness is to be fully alive, not pulled by every thought, not buried under every mood, but present, clear, available to life as it unfolds moment by moment, breath by breath, not trying to dominate it, not trying to predict it, just meeting it with softness and strength. It's like standing in the middle of a rainstorm. You don't run, you don't hide, you stand still and let the rain fall. Not because you've given up, but because you've given in to life, to its beauty, its mystery, its sorrow, its surprise. And in doing so, you find you are no longer drowning. You are dancing. When awareness is your ground, you don't need everything to be okay. You just need to be here for it. You can sit with someone in pain and not rush to fix them. You can hold your own sadness and not try to solve it. You can hear harsh words and choose not to echo them, because you're no longer reacting from habit. You're responding from presence. Think of a candle in a dark room. It doesn't chase the shadows. It doesn't resist the night. It simply shines. Softly, quietly, completely. That's what resting in awareness does. It doesn't eliminate life's difficulties. It illuminates them so they can be seen, held, understood, not from fear, but from love. There's a story of a woman named Mira. She used to think peace meant running away from the noise, the people, the world. So she moved to a cabin far away, hoping to find silence. But the silence outside didn't quiet the storm within. Until one morning, she sat with her tea, looked out the window, and whispered, "What if I stop running and just feel?" And for the first time, she didn't try to change anything. She didn't chant. She didn't resist. She just listened. And something inside her settled. She realized peace wasn't out there. It was in her willingness to stay. Awareness is not indifference. It's the deepest form of care because it doesn't turn away from reality. It holds it completely. It sees the anger and listens for the wound beneath it. It sees the fear and breathes with it. It sees the longing and doesn't shame it. This is not escape. This is meeting life with open hands, open heart, open eyes. So rest not to disconnect, but to connect more truly. Breathe not to get rid of tension, but to meet it. Be still not to avoid the world, but to enter it with clarity when you live this way. Presence becomes your power, not by force, by surrender. right now. Take one breath. Feel it arrive. Feel it leave. Let your awareness widen. Let everything be as it is. This is not inaction. This is the deepest form of engagement. Because here, you are no longer lost in thought. You are living. You are listening. You are loving with your whole being. There's a quiet revolution that happens, not with noise, not with declarations, but with presence. When you begin to live from awareness, not as a concept, but as a constant rhythm beneath your days, something fundamental shifts. You walk differently. You speak with more care. You listen with your whole being. Because now, you're not moving from fear or habit. You're moving from depth. You're not reacting. You're responding. And that simple shift changes everything. Imagine walking into a room, not trying to prove anything, not trying to impress, not trying to disappear, just arriving, breathing, open, still. Your presence itself becomes a kind of medicine, not because you're trying to help, but because you are rooted in being. People feel it. They soften near you. They open more easily, because you are not demanding anything of them. You are simply here. And that here-ness, that sacred stillness, is rare. It's healing. Living awake doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means entering it more consciously, making tea not as a task, but as a ritual, speaking not to be heard, but to connect, pausing not out of hesitation, but reverence. Presence doesn't slow life down. It deepens it. It makes every moment sacred, because nothing is taken for granted. Let's explore this in daily ways. Think of someone speaking to you, maybe a loved one, maybe a stranger. When you're caught in the mind, you listen to their words, but not their heart. You may be waiting to reply, to defend, to shift the topic. But when you're present, truly present, you hear differently. You notice the silence beneath their voice. You notice what's not being said. You feel them, not just their sentence. This kind of listening is rare, but it's transformational. Because when people feel seen, they begin to see themselves. Or think of a moment when you're walking, just walking. Usually, you're somewhere else in your mind, thinking, planning, reviewing. But imagine walking as a sacred act, feeling each step, noticing the texture of air on your skin, hearing the birds, the wind, your own breath. Suddenly, it's not just walking, it's arriving, it's living, it's being fully alive to the world. This is the gift of presence. It doesn't add more, it reveals more. When you move from awareness, you begin to choose differently, not to please others, not out of fear of missing out, but from a deep inner knowing, what serves peace, what honors truth, what reflects who I truly am, not who I think I should be. And that knowing doesn't shout, it whispers, it speaks from the chest, not the mind. It invites, rather than commands. It leads with quiet strength. And there's a story of a woman named Suri who worked in a loud, fast-paced world. Deadlines, meetings, expectations. She was efficient, respected, exhausted. Then one day, she began to pause before each meeting. Just 30 seconds. Eyes closed. One breath. At first, nothing seemed different, but over time, her choices began to shift. She spoke less, but with more impact. She listened more, and people felt safer. She stopped rushing and got more done. Why? Because she stopped living from tension. She started living from presence. Not dramatically, not perfectly, just honestly. And it changed not just her experience, but the energy of everyone around her. That's the power of presence. It doesn't just change you. It invites others into their own clarity, into their own groundedness. Because presence is contagious. It spreads through silence, through simplicity, through the gentle way you hold space for life to unfold. So, what does it look like to live awake? It looks like saying no with love, not guilt. It looks like meeting conflict with groundedness, not defensiveness. It looks like crying fully and laughing fully without shame. It looks like turning off the noise and tuning into breath. It looks like speaking from your heart, even if your voice trembles. It looks like being kind, not because the world always is, but because you are. Living awake is not dramatic. It's ordinary, in the most extraordinary way. It shows up in how you stir your tea, how you greet a stranger, how you return to your breath when fear rises, how you put your phone down and choose to simply be. It's not something you do once. It's something you return to again and again, like coming home. Because presence isn't a state to reach. It's a truth to remember. There's an old teaching that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The outer actions don't change, but the inner quality does. Now, you are awake within them. Now, you are alive in the middle of it all. Now, every act becomes sacred because it's done with awareness, with care, with love. So let this be your reminder. You don't have to go anywhere to live awake. You don't have to look different, talk different, dress different. You only have to be here, fully. This breath, this step, this moment, and from that presence, let life unfold. Let love speak. Let truth rise. Let your being simple, honest, awake become your way of moving through the world. There's a moment, quiet, brief, often missed, that lives inside every breath. A moment when the world pauses, just long enough for you to choose, to drift back into the dream, or to wake up, to return to the story, or to return to yourself, to move from autopilot or from awareness. This moment, this space between impulse and action is sacred because in it lives your freedom. Most of life is lived unconsciously. You wake up and the mind starts running plans, memories, worries, loops. You react to emails before your feet touch the ground. You scroll through lives before greeting your own. You rush, perform, achieve, not because you must, but because that's the pattern. And there's no shame in this. It's how we've been trained, conditioned, taught. But conditioning is not destiny. Each moment is a door, and you are the one who chooses whether to walk through. Waking up doesn't mean never drifting. It means noticing when you've drifted and returning with tenderness, without judgment. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's about seeing them clearly and choosing not to follow. This is the power of awareness, not to make you better, but to make you free. Free to respond, not react. Free to soften, not tighten. Free to pause and remember. Imagine this. You're in a conversation and someone says something sharp. The old you would bite back, defend, blame, but something in you pauses, a breath, and in that breath, a choice. Do I react from pain, or do I respond from presence? Do I sleepwalk through the script, or do I wake up? Right here, and choose another way. Maybe that pause only lasts a second. Maybe it changes everything. These moments are everywhere. You feel anger rising. Do you fuel it or meet it? You feel sadness knock. Do you numb it or sit with it? You hear the old story, you're not enough. Do you believe it or question it? Every time, a choice, not a punishment, not a test, a doorway. And on the other side, stillness, clarity, compassion. Not always easy, but always true. There's a story of a monk named Tenzin who trained for years in silence. One day, he returned to the village where he was once mocked, once ignored. A man insulted him, loudly, in the market. Tenzin stood still. He didn't react. He simply bowed and walked away. Later, a student asked, "Why didn't you speak up?" Tenzin smiled. "Because I remembered I am not his anger, and I am not my reaction. I am awareness, and awareness always has a choice." You may not be in a monastery. You may not live in silence, but your life offers thousands of invitations each day. Will I wake up? Or will I fall into the trance of reaction, comparison, distraction? And again, there is no shame in forgetting. There is only the practice of remembering, and that remembering is sacred. Let's try something now. Bring to mind a recent moment when you felt triggered, tense, disconnected. What happened? Notice the thought, the feeling, the impulse. Now ask, what else was here? In that moment, was there a breath you didn't notice? A silence between words, a softness behind the reaction? That was the doorway, and it's still open. You don't need to go back in time. You only need to meet this moment right now. Breathe. Feel your body, your chest, your face, your hands. Notice what is alive, not as a story, but a sensation. You are awake now, Can you feel it? This is your power, not control. Not perfection, choice, the quiet, sacred ability to return. And this return isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply putting the phone down. Sometimes it's drinking tea without multitasking. Sometimes it's saying, "I don't know," instead of pretending. Sometimes it's placing a hand on your heart and whispering, "Come back." This is how we live awake, not in rare moments, but in repeated ones. Not once and for all, but once, and again, and again. Waking up is not an event. It's a rhythm. Some days, you'll remember 100 times. Some days, once is enough. What matters is not how many. What matters is how gently you return, how kindly you meet yourself in the forgetting, and how honestly you begin again. Let this be your invitation. Next time you feel pulled into panic, into speed, into self-doubt, pause, one breath, and ask, what am I choosing right now? Even that asking is waking up. Even that pause is holy, because in that moment, you remember, you are not the thought, you are not the fear, you are the one who sees and chooses, and that is freedom. There's a softness that enters the heart when you stop trying to be someone, when the need to prove, to defend, to appear strong begins to dissolve. And in that space where the armor falls, something ancient awakens. Compassion, not as a performance, not as a duty, but as a natural warmth, rising from deep within. When you stop gripping your identity, you begin to see others more clearly, not as threats, not as competition, not as strangers, but as mirrors, each person carrying their own fears, longings, mistakes, tenderness, just like you. And in that recognition, something melts. The wall between me and you becomes thin. You begin to see through it and feel through it, not conceptually, viscerally. So much of our suffering comes from defending the idea of who we think we are. We build castles out of labels. I am successful. I am strong. I am spiritual. I am right. And then we spend our lives protecting those castles. Every comment becomes a threat. Every disagreement feels personal. But what if the castle isn't needed? What if your true strength isn't in defense, but in openness? What if compassion doesn't come from becoming better, but from becoming less guarded? Try this. Bring to mind someone you struggle with, someone who irritates you, frightens you, confuses you. Now pause and ask, what pain might they carry? What fears? What unmet needs? What stories have shaped their reactions? You don't need to excuse their behavior. You don't even need to like them. But if you can feel into their humanity, even for a moment, something softens. Not in them, in you. That's compassion. Compassion doesn't mean agreeing. It doesn't mean losing boundaries. It means seeing with the eyes of the heart. It means remembering no one acts from wholeness when they're in deep pain. Not you, not them, not anyone. We lash out when we feel small. We withdraw when we feel unseen. We judge when we feel judged. And when you stop defending your own identity, you can finally see the pain beneath someone else's mask. You can finally meet them, not as a role, but as a soul. There's a story of two monks walking together. One was calm, quiet, unshaken. The other proud, always needing to be right. As they walked past a man in distress, the proud monk looked away. The quiet monk stopped, held the man's hands, looked into his eyes, said nothing. Later, the proud monk asked, "Why did you give him your time?" The other replied, "Because I wasn't busy protecting myself." That's the essence. When we're busy defending, we don't have room to love. When we're busy performing, we don't have space to connect. But when we rest in awareness, when we no longer need to be someone, love flows naturally, quietly, truly. You might be wondering, how do I stop defending? It begins with honesty, noticing when your chest tightens, when you need to prove a point, when you cling to being right, and then pausing, breathing, softening, asking, what am I afraid of losing? Respect, control, belonging. And underneath that, what am I still trying to protect? This is not weakness. This is courage. The courage to meet yourself honestly. The courage to be seen, not as perfect, but as real. A compassion for others begins with compassion for self. When you can hold your own shadow gently, you stop fearing other people's shadows. When you stop judging your own imperfection, you stop needing others to be perfect. This is how compassion grows, not from pushing, but from opening. Right now, take a breath. Place a hand on your chest. If you like, feel your heartbeat. This too is you, not your resume, not your image, but this living, pulsing, tender being, trying, falling, growing, loving. And now imagine every single person you've ever met has a heart like this, beating, hoping, hurting, healing. How could we not bow to that? How could we not care? When the self softens, the heart opens, and when the heart opens, life begins to change, not dramatically, but deeply. You speak with more kindness. You listen more fully. You judge less quickly. And it's not because you're trying to be spiritual. It's because you've stopped trying to be separate. You've stopped trying to win. You've started to love. Let this be your practice, not to add more compassion, but to remove the walls that block it, not to force empathy, but to return to the awareness that holds everyone equally, not to pretend you're perfect, but to see the perfect imperfection in all. That is living awake. That is love, without defense, in a noisy world. Stillness is a rare and sacred offering. Not everyone can sit in silence. Not everyone can pause before speaking. Not everyone remembers how to listen, but you can. And when you do, you don't just find peace. You offer it to the room you walk into, to the conversation you hold, to the lives that briefly touch yours. Your stillness becomes service. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing everything, from presence, from wholeness, from clarity. When you act from stillness, your words carry more weight because they come from the heart, not the ego. Your choices ripple wider because they're rooted, not rushed. Your energy nourishes because it's calm, not chaotic. You may not always see the effect, but it's felt deeply, quietly, lastingly. Have you ever stood beside someone grounded? They didn't speak much. They didn't try to impress. But something about them made you feel safe, held, heard, settled. That's the power of a quiet presence. Not demanding, not loud, just real. And that presence, that groundedness, that's not reserved for saints or sages. It lives in you, right now, beneath the surface, beneath the noise, waiting to be lived. And the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who can sit in silence without fear. It needs more people who can be calm in the middle of chaos. It needs more people who can stay when things are uncomfortable. People who are not led by the loudest voice, but by the stillest wisdom. People who don't react, they respond. People who don't dominate, they hold space. People who don't rush, they remember. Stillness is not absence. It's a different kind of presence. It says, I will not add to the storm. I will be the eye of it. And from that place, your life becomes a quiet revolution, not in protest, not in noise, but in attention, in care, in rooted truth. Imagine this. A friend shares their sorrow. You don't rush to fix it. You sit, you breathe, you stay. That's stillness. A stranger lashes out. You feel the impulse to fight, but instead, you soften your shoulders and say, I see you. That's stillness. You feel anxiety rising. Instead of numbing, you close your eyes and feel your feet on the ground. That's stillness. It's not grand. It's not dramatic. It's the art of showing up with your full self unshaken. Stillness is not personality. It's not about being quiet on the outside. It's about being unmoved on the inside. You can be still and laugh, still and dance, still and speak your truth boldly. What makes it still is the source it comes from. Not fear, not ego, but awareness. That's what gives it power. There's a parable from the old forests. A teacher asked his student, "What is the most generous thing you can offer the world?" The student replied, "Kindness," the teacher said. "And where does kindness live?" The student thought, then said, "In peace." And the teacher nodded. Then be peace, and you will become kindness without trying. Stillness is contagious, like calm water spreading out in gentle ripples. You don't have to fix others. You only have to be true. You don't have to carry everyone. You only have to be present. And in that presence, something sacred is transmitted. Not information, not strategy, but safety, permission, remembrance, a way of being that reminds others of their own center. Let this be your service to walk into rooms and carry peace, not tension, to listen before reacting, to notice beauty, even in ordinary places, to breathe deeply, even when others hold their breath, to move slowly, even when the world shouts hurry. You may never know the lives you touch, but touch them. You will. And sometimes, the greatest healing is not a word you say, but the silence you hold, not the answer you give, but the presence you become. Stillness doesn't beg to be seen. It simply remains. And by remaining, it transforms everything it touches. Let's feel this now. Close your eyes. If you like, feel the air around you. Feel your breath, unforced. Feel the quiet inside your chest. Not empty, but alive. That space is the most generous part of you. That space is where love begins. That space is the gift. And when you live from there, even the smallest act becomes sacred. The world may keep spinning fast, but you don't have to match its speed. You can be the one who remembers, the one who pauses, the one who grounds. Not because you're special, but because you've chosen to live from truth. Because you've chosen stillness not as a place to hide, but a way to show up. So, walk gently, speak with care, love fully, and let your stillness ripple through rooms, through hearts, through time. This is the offering the world didn't know it needed, and you are the one giving it. We often imagine peace as a destination, a faraway place we'll arrive at once everything is solved, once the mind is quiet, once the past is healed, once the world cooperates, once we're finally enough. But peace doesn't wait at the finish line. Peace is how you move, not where you end up. It's not a reward for perfection. It's a rhythm you choose, step by step, breath by breath. Imagine a path through a forest. Sometimes it's clear and dry. Sometimes it's muddy, tangled, unclear. If you rush to get through it, you miss the beauty. If you try to control every twist, you suffer. But if you walk with presence, something changes. Each leaf becomes vivid. Each step becomes real. Each sound, bird, wind, branch becomes sacred. This is walking in peace, not because the path is easy, but because you've stopped resisting it. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of willingness. Willingness to meet life as it is. Willingness to feel fully. Willingness to pause, breathe, and soften, even when your plans fall apart. Peace says, I don't need to win this moment. I only need to be here for it. And in that surrender, peace arrives, not with fanfare, but with quiet grace. So many of us chase peace like a prize. We think we'll find it after the retreat, after the breakthrough, after the next achievement. But the truth is softer. Peace is not found at the top of the mountain. It's found in how you climb. Not in reaching silence, but in how you hold the noise. Not in solving the mind, but in how gently you return to breath. Not in fixing the world, but in how kindly you meet it. Right now, check in. Where is your peace? In the future, in a better version of you, in a cleaner house, a quieter mind, a different life? Or could it be here, in this inhale, this exhale, this heartbeat? Peace doesn't need conditions. It needs awareness. It's not far. It's familiar. You've touched it before in the still mornings, the quiet evenings, the moments when you stopped trying to change anything. You've already been there. You only need to remember. There's a story of a man who wandered for years searching for peace. He studied books, climbed peaks, asked sages. One day, an old woman gave him tea and asked, "What will you do once you find peace?" He replied, "I'll finally be able to live." She smiled. What if living is the way? He paused, and in the steam of the tea, the warmth in his hands, the softness of her gaze he understood. Peace wasn't something to find. It was something to live. Living peace doesn't mean everything feels good. It means you're not fighting the moment. It means you meet the hard days with breath, the joyful days with gratitude, the ordinary days with attention. It means you stop waiting to begin. You live now. You feel now. You soften now. That's peace. Not a reward, but a way. And yes, you'll forget. We all do. The mind will spin. The past will echo. The world will shake. But peace doesn't demand consistency. It only asks for return. One breath, one step, one choice to soften again and again. That's the journey and the destination. It was never elsewhere. It was always here. Close your eyes for a moment and ask softly, who am I? Not your name, not your job, not your past, but the one who is aware of all of those. Who is that? What is that? Is it solid? Is it findable? Or is it more like a space that sees? We spend so much of life defending something we've never actually seen. We build our choices around it. We protect its image. We try to improve it, prove it, preserve it. But when we really look gently, honestly, the self we cling to begins to dissolve, not in a scary way, but in a liberating one, because the self is not a thing. It's a pattern, a bundle of habits, preferences, memories, reactions tied together with the thread of assumption. You were told this is who you are, and you believed it because it made life feel safer. I am this body. I am this personality. I am this history. But are you? Can you find that you, apart from the thoughts about it, apart from the feelings, the roles, the stories, what remains when you let all that go? What's still here, quietly, watching? This is not about denying your humanity. It's about seeing its deeper nature. You are not the costume. You are not the actor. You are the awareness in which the play unfolds. You are the screen, not the movie. You are the sky, not the storm. And once you see this, you stop gripping so tightly. You stop needing to control every scene, because you know the self was never a fixed object. It was a process, a wave, a movement. And now, you've returned to the ocean. There's a parable of a salt doll who wanted to measure the depth of the sea. It stepped into the water and said, "I will go just a little further." With each step, it dissolved until nothing remained, except the sea. This is the journey inward, not to disappear, but to realize you were never separate. You were always part of the whole. Try this now. Let your thoughts arise. Watch them. Now your emotions. Let them move. Now sensations in the body. Let them appear, fade, shift. You can see all of this. But what is seeing? Can you find a center A boundary? A fixed me? Or is it just awareness open, fluid, vast? You're not inside your experience. Your experience is inside you. And you as a personal self was only ever a wave of belief, a lens, not a core. This might sound abstract, but its impact is deeply practical. When you see through the self, you stop taking everything so personally. An insult, it doesn't hit the same way. A fear, it moves through more easily. A praise, it doesn't inflate you. You're no longer defending an identity. You're simply present with what is. Free to love. Free to change. Free to rest. There's a lightness that comes when you're no longer locked in the role. You stop needing to be seen a certain way. You stop needing to prove your worth. You stop fearing imperfection. Because you realize the self is not the source of peace. Letting go of the self is. This isn't a rejection of personality. It's just a shift in where you place your identity. You can still laugh, dance, argue, create, but you know it's all movement. None of it defines you. All of it passes through. And what remains is awareness, silent, open, undamaged. So when you feel tension rise, try this, don't ask. What's wrong with me? Ask. Who is this happening to? Not as an escape, but as an inquiry. And see, can you find the one who is suffering? Or do you find only thoughts, sensations, memories, trying to be someone? And can you let that someone dissolve? Not disappear. Just soften. Just open. Just rest. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a deeper truth, a way of living that's not bound by self-image, comparison, or shame, a way of loving that's not based on approval or possession, a way of being that is wide, free, and whole, because the self may be an illusion, but what you are, awareness, presence, being is real, and it cannot be harmed. What remains when the story of me begins to fade? What's left when you stop defending, performing, controlling? There is a stillness, a clarity, a soft warmth that doesn't need to be named. And when you sit in that stillness long enough, you start to recognize its nature. It's not emptiness. It's not nothing. It's love. Not the kind you chase, not the kind you lose, but the kind that simply is. When the self dissolves, the walls fall, the imagined border between you and me begins to blur, not in a loss of identity, but in a recognition of shared essence. What hurts you, I can feel. What heals me might touch you, too. This is not an idea. It's a felt experience, as real as breath, as quiet as light, as vast as sky. You don't have to try to love. You don't have to make yourself more compassionate. You only need to stop standing in the way. Because love is not something you do. It's what you are when you stop pretending to be anything else. Think of a child, very young, before shame or comparison entered. They don't wonder if they're enough. They don't hesitate before reaching out. They love openly, hurt fully, laugh freely. That innocence is not weakness. It's clarity. It's what remains when the mind is not burdened by self-concept, and you haven't lost it. It's just been layered over, but it's still here, waiting. Sometimes, when the self falls away, even for a moment, tears come, not because something is wrong, but because something real is being remembered, something whole, something tender, something true. It's the quiet realization. You don't need to protect your heart. You are the heart. You don't need to become love. You are already made of it. And this love is not always gentle. Sometimes it's fierce. Sometimes it says no. Sometimes it burns away what no longer serves. But always it comes from truth, not from fear, not from strategy, not from identity. It rises from presence, and it moves toward connection. Nam. You may notice, as the sense of a fixed self softens, you no longer ask, "Do they like me?" You ask, "Can I meet them fully?" You no longer think, "How do I look?" You wonder, "How do I see?" You're no longer seeking to impress. You're seeking to understand, because love is not about being needed. It's about being real. This love doesn't belong to you. It moves through you. You don't hold it. You're held by it. And when you relax into that holding, you stop needing to control the story. You let life write itself. You let love speak through silence, act through stillness, heal through honesty. You become not a someone who loves, but love, knowing itself. There's a story of a man who spent years building a wall around his heart, brick by brick, layer by layer, out of fear, pride, protection. Then one day, he forgot to keep building. He simply sat, and in that stillness, the wall began to crumble. He didn't try to stop it, and when it was gone, he didn't feel exposed. He felt vast. Because without the wall, he wasn't small. He was the field, and in that field was love. Try this now. Bring to mind someone you love deeply, not because they give you something, just because you care. Feel that. Now bring to mind someone neutral, a stranger, a passerby. Feel into their humanness. Now someone difficult, not to condone, but to see, to feel beneath the mask, into the shared longing. What is the common thread? What connects all three? That thread is love. Not personal, not emotional, foundational. The more you dissolve the self, the more you begin to see no one is outside the circle. No being is unworthy. No moment is separate. And in that vision, love flows naturally. It's not romantic. It's not sentimental. It's the spacious warmth that arises when you're no longer protecting a false center. It's the natural kindness of emptiness, the compassion of clarity, the generosity of being. So if you wonder, how can I love more? Ask instead, what am I still defending? And breathe. Soften. Let the armor crack. Let the light in. Let love be what's left. Because when the self is seen through, what remains is what you've always longed for and what you've always been. There comes a time on the path when silence is no longer a retreat from the world. It becomes a way of seeing the world. You sit, you breathe, and you begin to notice it was never the world that was trapping you. Not the noise, not the busyness, not the uncertainty. It was the way you saw it, the way you interpreted it, the filters of fear, desire, expectation. Those were the bars. And when you see that, not as an idea, but as a felt truth. Something begins to shift. You no longer need to escape. You begin to see through. Escaping sounds attractive, especially when life feels heavy. We think if I could just leave the job, the city, the people, the chaos, then I'd be free. But have you ever noticed? Wherever you go, you bring yourself. And the self that seeks escape is often the very self creating the suffering. Because it's not the traffic, it's your resistance to it. It's not the noise, it's your war with it. It's not the emotion, it's your judgment of it. Freedom doesn't come from rearranging the world. It comes from seeing through the lens that makes the world seem like a cage. When you look through the lens of ego, everything feels personal. Life becomes a constant negotiation. What does this say about me? How can I get more? What if I lose what I have? But the moment that lens softens even briefly, a new clarity emerges. You see the world not as a battlefield, but as a movement. You see people not as opponents or allies, but as waves, just like you, rising and falling. You begin to realize you don't need to win this game. You only need to wake up from it. Waking up doesn't mean withdrawing. It means participating from presence. It means living fully, but not being caught. It means loving deeply, but not clinging. It means feeling everything without becoming overwhelmed. You walk through the marketplace, and it is loud, but you are still. You are in traffic, but you are free. You face conflict, but you don't collapse, because you are not escaping the world. You are seeing it clearly, for the first time. There's a story of a sage who was asked, "Master, how do you remain so peaceful in the middle of all this chaos?" The master replied, "I no longer argue with the world." They asked, "So you've stopped caring?" "No," he said gently. "I care more deeply now. But I don't need the world to match my story. I see things as they are, not as I wish them to be. This is freedom, not indifference, not passivity, but clarity." Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It's the absence of identification. You can feel sadness and still be free if you don't become the one who is sad. You can feel anger and still be free if you don't believe every thought it speaks. Experience will keep arising. The mind will keep narrating. The world will keep shifting. But you, as awareness, can remain unshaken. Because now, you're not looking for something outside to give your peace. You are peace, meeting each moment. On, try this. Next time you feel trapped by a situation, a person, a mood, pause. Don't try to fix it. Just see it. Name what's arising. Notice the urge to escape. Then ask, who is experiencing this? Who is suffering right now? Not to analyze, to become aware. And in that awareness, you might find the walls were never real. The door was always open. You were free. Even then. You don't have to go to the mountaintop. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Freedom isn't elsewhere. It's not someday. It's here. It's now. And it begins the moment you stop trying to escape the world and start seeing through it. There's a secret the mystics have whispered for centuries. What you see out there is a reflection of what's in here. Not in a metaphorical sense, not as a spiritual belief, but as a living, breathing reality. The world, you move through its sharpness, its softness, its color. Its chaos is filtered through your state of consciousness. It doesn't mean you control the world. It means the lens you look through determines what you see. Have you noticed? When you're rushed, the world feels like it's in your way. When you're afraid, people seem threatening. When you're judgmental, everything becomes a flaw. But when you're present, just present, the same street becomes a sanctuary. The same stranger becomes a mystery. The same silence becomes music. The world didn't change. Your seeing did. This is not to deny injustice or pretend suffering isn't real, but to notice how you meet the world determines what you add to it. Do you enter with resistance or receptivity? Do you listen to respond or to understand? Do you judge what arises or meet it with care? The outer and the inner are not two. They dance together, inseparable. Change your state, and you shift your perception. Shift perception, and the world softens. It's like light through stained glass. The light is pure, constant, but the colors it casts depend on the glass. Your consciousness is the glass, and when it's clouded with fear, ego, habit, the world appears fractured. But when it's clear, open, grounded in awareness, the same world glows. Nothing outside had to be fixed, just the lens. There's a story of a monk who always smiled, even while sweeping dust. A visitor asked, "Why are you smiling at dirt?" The monk replied, "Because when my mind is clean, even dust shines." It wasn't the broom, it was his presence. He didn't sweep to get rid of something. He swept as a ritual, as a way of returning, as a mirror of his state. And so even the dust became sacred. Try this pause. Right now, look around you without labeling. Just feel, just see. Notice your body, not to change it, but to meet it. Notice your breath, not to fix it, but to feel it. Then ask, what is this moment reflecting? What is it showing me about my own state? This isn't self-blame. It's self-inquiry. A mirror is not judgment. It's revelation. When you move through life unconsciously, the world appears fixed. But when you slow down, become aware, you see the world is alive, and it's responding to the quality of your attention. When you bring stillness, you begin to see stillness. When you bring kindness, faces soften. When you bring presence, the ordinary becomes luminous, not because you made it so, but because you finally stopped covering it. This truth can feel daunting because it places responsibility back into your hands, but it's also a profound empowerment. You don't have to wait for the world to change. You can begin with your own consciousness, and from there, the change ripples out subtly, quietly, truly. You don't preach peace. You become it. You don't demand others awaken. You live awake. And the world responds not to your pressure, to your presence. And the mirror of the world is not here to shame you. It's here to reveal you, to help you remember what you're projecting, to show you what still needs love. And when you meet the reflection with honesty, with gentleness, you begin to see clearly. It was never about fixing the image. It was always about healing the seer. And once the seer is healed, even for a breath, the whole world shines. Spirituality is not a room you visit. It is not a robe you wear on special days. It is the breath you are taking right now. It is the ground under your feet. It is the sound of water running, the way your hands feel warm around a cup of tea. Spiritual life is not separate from everyday life. It is the essence of it. There is a myth often unspoken, but deeply rooted, that spiritual truth must live far away, in ashrams, on mountaintops, in books written long ago. And yes, there is wisdom there, but the real practice. It begins when your eyes open in the morning, when the alarm goes off, when the dishes pile up, when someone cuts you off in traffic. Can you be present then? Can you remain aware? Can you bow to that moment as holy? Many people seek the sacred in silence, and silence is beautiful. But the true test of stillness is not silence. It is movement. Can you carry presence into your conversation, into your email, into your parenting? Can you let meditation walk off the cushion and into the world? That's the shift, from visiting peace to becoming it. Imagine this. You're waiting in line. It's noisy. You feel impatient. Suddenly, you remember. You feel your feet. You soften your jaw. You come home to your breath. Nothing outside changed, but something within you opened. That's spiritual practice, not escape. Engagement, not withdrawal. Integration. The divine is not hiding in temples. It is dancing in traffic. It is whispering through your coworkers. It is breathing with you as you stir the soup. Life itself is the retreat. Each moment, a bell calling you back, not to abandon your responsibilities, but to meet them with presence. This is what the great teachers meant when they said, chop wood, carry water, not because life is mundane, but because it is sacred. Sometimes we imagine enlightenment as a place where we no longer feel messy, where everything is smooth, clean, controlled. But real awakening doesn't make life tidy. It makes life alive. You still forget, still stumble, but now you see even that as part of the dance. You stop dividing your life into spiritual and not spiritual, because there is only this moment, and your presence in it is the offering. Try this. Whatever you're doing next, do it with 10% more awareness. Feel the movement of your hands. Notice the quality of your breath. Don't rush to spiritualize it. Just be with it. That's the path. One ordinary sacred moment at a time. You don't need to chant. You don't need to escape. You only need to show up and open and return. presence infuses your life, everything begins to shimmer. Not because things change, but because you finally see them. The smile of a stranger, the feeling of socks on your feet, the wind on your skin. It was all sacred. You just forgot to notice. Now, you remember. Honor the sacred is not something you add. It's something you see, and once seen. It cannot be unseen. The line at the store becomes a meditation. The argument becomes a chance to practice listening. The body becomes a temple, even with its aches and scars. There is no place you must go, no costume to wear. There is only the invitation to bring all of yourself to this moment and to see it was all holy, all along. So here we are, at the end, and yet not an end at all. Because this path, the one you've been walking, breath by breath, moment by moment, was never about getting somewhere new. It was about remembering where you already are. Remembering that peace is not a reward. It's your natural state. That stillness is not separate from life. It's the heart of it. That love isn't something you earn. It's what remains when all the masks fall away. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to be better, more spiritual, more enlightened. You only need to see clearly, to feel deeply, to return again and again to this breath, this heartbeat, this moment, because each one is a doorway. Each one is enough. And as you walk forward into whatever comes next, carry this with you. Your awareness is medicine. Your stillness is a sanctuary. Your gentle presence is a gift, not just for you, but for the world. You don't have to change it all. You don't have to fix anyone. Just live awake. Just love honestly. Just meet life as it is. And in doing so, you become the peace you once sought. Thank you for walking this journey. Thank you for listening, breathing, softening. If this touched something in you, share it. If this reminded you of something true, return to it. And if you wish to keep walking with us, like, comment, and subscribe, because this is not the end. It's a circle, and every circle begins again. In the next video, we'll explore how the wisdom of letting go can help us navigate grief, endings, and transitions with grace. Until then, stay close to your breath, to your truth, to your quiet, knowing heart. It already knows the way home.